Okay, my friends, let's try to understand a little bit the Haftora on Shavuot, the first day of Shavuot. Here we're in the land of Israel. We only have one day of holiday, and we have the Haftorah. The Haftorah is the portion which is usually read from the prophets after the Torah is read. A lot of times it comes from Isaiah, but not always. We saw that this Shabbat, it came from Hosea, and on Shavuot, it comes from Ezekiel. And Ezekiel, the famous prophecy of Ezekiel is the one of the dry bones. That's mostly of Eshot. And some people say it really happened, that he enlivened all of these dead people that had been dead for like 800 years. He brought them all back to life, about 20,000 of them. So that's pretty amazing. That's pretty, but that's not this. That Haftorah we read in the Shabbat of Passover. But this here we read about the angels. Isaiah saw the angels, and then finally in the end, we jump one whole full chapter and stick another sentence over there. What's the story with Isaiah? Not Isaiah, Ezekiel. What's the story with Ezekiel? Very sad story, tremendously sad story. Ezekiel is a tremendously holy person. He's prophesizing to the Jewish people. Nobody listens to him. Ezekiel, he's prophesizing to the two tribes which are left, right? The Israel divided immediately after the death of King Solomon. So Israel divided, and 10 tribes went up to the north. That was the northern, not that they went up, there were 10 tribes in the north, and their leader was a person called Yerovam ben Nevat, and they immediately lapsed into idolatry. And that was Hosea. He was the prophet that prophesied to them. There were others also, but he was the main one. And they didn't listen to them, and finally it was destroyed. And then after that, there comes up, this is about 150 years later, comes up on the scene a new king, Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar, he starts conquering the whole world. And there's also, if you read Daniel, read the book of Daniel, in the end, there's this amazing vision that Nebuchadnezzar has, and he goes to Daniel and he asks him to explain it. And he says so Daniel says, what's the vision? So he says, I forgot, you tell the dream, you tell the dream. And also, so Daniel tells him what the dream is, and he explains it. And it ends up that Nebuchadnezzar, he says you're conquering the whole world, but you're going to lose to the whatever is the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the this and the. Okay, but here this is the beginning of the right before the total destruction of the first temple. And so what's going over there? Nebuchadnezzar, anyway, he takes over the whole world, and he gets up to Jerusalem. He doesn't take over Jerusalem. He just takes the king into captivity, and he leaves a king that was Yochania or Yoyachin. Anyways, he takes them into captivity, and he leaves behind a king called Sidkiyahu, and Sidkiyahu in the end, and the prophet over there tells him, there's the prophet Jeremiah, he tells him, listen, don't make any trouble, and it'll be okay. But he did make trouble. He decided to make a rebellion, and because of that, the temple was destroyed. Now, this is before that happened. Now, the Jewish people, they're all brokenhearted. This is right before the temple was destroyed, but they're all brokenhearted. And they're, just like a year or two, 2-3 years before the temple was totally destroyed. And the Jewish people are all, they figure, okay, God has already left us. And so here comes Ezekiel with this amazing prophecy that he sees all these angels and levels, and borrowed just a few things that he sees over here. From this is borrowed a lot of the secrets of Kabbalah. And so this is his prophecy. Let's go. Let's learn the prophecy a little bit. Right? I know it's small, but you can look in the English. Best if you look in the English. And it was in the 30th year. This is the 30th year they were still keeping the Jubilee. This is the last Jubilee year that they kept. So this is the Jubilee is 50 years. So this is the 30th year. And I am Bakotocha Gola. Oh, 1 second. Am I doing this right? No, I'm not doing it right. I'm not doing it right. There we go. There we go. Yes. So this is the beginning of the book of Ezekiel. On the 30th year, in any case, I am in the exile. He's over there in Babylon on the Har Kabar. And the heavens opened up, and I saw visions of God. On the 5th day of the month, which is the Shana HaChamishis, this is the 5th year of the exile of Melech Yoyachin. And at the 11th year, that's when Nebuchadnezzar destroys the temple. He has enough of it. He destroys the temple. Yoyachin. Before there was Yochania. Hayahu Devar Hashem, the word of God was on Yechezkel ben Buz. He's talking about himself, the coin, and the Eretz Kasdim, that's Iraq, whatever it is, Babel, on the Har Kavor, on this place in Navarro, and it was the Yasham, and over there was the hand of God, and I saw. And there was a big wind coming from the north, and there was a big cloud, and there was fire, and Nogalos. If you look in the Tanya, in the 6th chapter of the Tanya, he hints that these are the 4 types of what they call klipa. Now here's where it comes from. Ruach Sa'ara and Anad Gadol. Says these are the 3 impure shells. Eish Mikla Kachat Saviv, and fire around it. To this day, I don't know exactly which one is which and what the difference between this klipa is, but nevertheless, these are the source of all the forbidden things of the world. And there's no Galos Aviv. This is the source of all things that are permissible you can use in the Torah. Okay, now it starts to get really wild. Inside of there's something like chashmal. We call that electricity in the fire. Chashmal because it's like a vibrating light. It's chash, it's quiet, and then it's mal, and then it reveals in the fire. And it is the appearance of 4 animals. And on these 4 animals, we're going to see it's a man and an eagle and a ox and a lion. And on each one of these, each one of them really has the face of all the other 4. In any case, on all of them is the face of man. And these are this usually refers to the life force of all the impure animals and the pure animals and the birds. In any case, all of them had faces. There were 4 wings to each one of them. They had feet, straight feet, and their straight legs, and their feet were like the foot of a calf, a cow, and they were sparkling, something like some sort of light copper, and they had hands of man underneath their wings, and on the 4 corners and their faces and their wings, they had all 4 of them, and they were joined one to the other with their wings. And they didn't turn around when they were moving one to the other. Panav Yalecho, they were facing forward. And the appearance of their faces was the face of man, the face of a lion was on the right to fall, there was the face of an ox, and there was the face of the eagle to all 4 of them. And their faces and their wings were separated above each one, etc., etc. 2 of them were covered, their bodies. Ishal Ever Panav Yelechu. There's a lot of explanations. You can look in the book and find what these explanations are. Wherever the wind went, that's where they went, and they didn't turn when they were going. And the appearance of these 4 animals was like coals of fire, and they were burning like flames when that was going between these 4 animals, and there was no gelation, it was like shining. And from this fire, the fire that was between them, came lightning. Right? Mysteries. Mysteries means they're mysteries for me also. And these chayos, these animals, were ruts of a shov. This is brought also in a lot of Hasidut. It's brought. The chayos, there were angels which are called chayot HaKodesh, and there's angels which are called ophanim. Generally speaking, they say that the vision of Ezekiel was in what we call the dimension, the world of dimension. of Yetzirah. That's corresponds to what we call Gan Eden, the lower heaven. And the vision of Isaiah was in the world of Bria. That's what's called the upper heaven. And Moses his vision was in Atzilut. That was even higher. He was above everybody. That was pure godliness. Anyway, the Chayats were going and coming back. In Chassidut, they use this a lot, not just the angels, but not the Chayot, which are these angel animals, whatever you want to call it, but they were the Chayut, the life force of the world is always pulsating, going forward and back. We learned about this a very great deal when we're talking about going out of Egypt. And there's also a beautiful mimer about the paraduma, where there has to be water and the ashes and the fire. And it was like the Mara Buzik, it was like flashing. And I saw these animals, these angels, whatever, and there was a big wheel that was on the earth, on the ground, right, by these four angels, the angels with the four faces. And these wheels were like something like some sort of a stone. It says it was, what is it, granite or something, not granite, crystal, it's translation. And it was like there was one appearance to all of them, and their faces, Mariam, Masim, their appearance and their deeds were like a big wheel inside of a wheel. And on all four of them, they would go, this wheel would go when they went. They did not turn to look. You'll read it in the English, and you'll see if my translation was accurate or if it wasn't. And if you understand something, you can get in touch with me and tell me, because I don't really understand what's going on over here. These angels, I never saw any. It says that if a person sees an angel, then he'll go crazy, he'll burn up, or go crazy, see an angel. Huh? You learn that from it says that the parents of Samson, Shimshon, they saw an angel and said, we're dead. And anyway, so their backs, and it says, and they were full of eyes, all four of these faces, they're full of eyes. And when these angels called the Chayot, the wheels also went with them, and they lifted them up on the ground, from the ground. And this lifted up also when the Jews serve God, so this is energy lifts up these angels, but the angels on their own are going back and forth. Just like in the earth, there's angels, right? There's angels, there's animals. What do the animals do? They think about themselves. They eat, they do whatever they do. Well, the angels also just think about themselves, but the angels themselves is just pure godliness. They have no physical body. So they're, instead of eating grass and things like that, so the water, so they just want godliness. Anyway, there was the spirit going between them, and the spirit went, and these Ophanim, these angels, which are called the wheels, they lifted up opposite them, because the spirit of these angels was in these wheels. Wherever it went, that's where they went. And when they stood. And when it lifted up from the ground, so it lifted up the Ophanim opposite these angels, which are called the Chayos, because the spirit of them was in these wheels. And there was like an appearance on the head of this Chaya, like a rakia, like some sort of a firmament, which was like snow, ice, awesome ice that was over their heads, milamaila, from above. Usually that's like the separation between one dimension, one world, and the other. And under this heaven were their wings were straight, one toward the other one. Each one had two that covered up their body, and each one, the other two wings were up. So they had four wings. And under the heaven, when there was a revelation of godliness from under the heavens, so when there was no revelation of God, so then their wings were straight. Two of them cover over here, and two of them cover over their body, and they lifted up on the bam. And I heard the sound of their wings, and it was like the sound of wings. How do you say, like tremendous turbulent water with a powerful voice. But then Molechtam call Homula, the call Machana. Then there was this tremendous sound of godliness or whatever that was in the camp. And when the godliness was revealed, then their wings went down. And there was a voice from above. Usually, I don't know where the commas are. There was a voice which came from above this firmament that was on their head. And when the voice came, so like we said, the wings went down. When they didn't, so they were striving to go up. But when they received, so that brought them into fear. So that's love and fear. They lifted their wings up in love, and then the wings came down. When the revelation of God would come, there would be awe and fear. From above this firmament, which is on their head, there was like it appeared like a sapphire stone. Now, how Ezekiel remembered all this? I mean, he was a great holy person. Here we go. Here we see there was an appearance of a throne. And on the throne was an appearance like the likeness of a man. And this, they're usually talking about, this was like the world of Bria that he saw. This is where Isaiah saw his visions. Ezekiel, his visions did not reach to you just got a little glimpse. And usually the throne is the world of Bria, and the man sitting on the throne, that's the world of Atzilut. So what does this mean? It means that God has an image, right? That's forbidden to say. God certainly does not have an image. That's like blasphemy. God doesn't have. But on the other hand, it says clearly in the Bible that God created us in his image. And here we see all these visions of God that he's seeing with all these faces and things like that. So the explanation is that when God creates the world, so he creates it according to this incredibly complicated system. And this incredibly complicated system, this is based on the number 32. So the 32 paths of wisdom, which are the 10 sphirot of God, the 10 aspects of God, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. This is talked about in the beginning of this book called Sefer Yetzirah. If you know how to really use this book, Sefer Yetzirah, you can make people. That's the story of the Maharal Miprag. He made a golem that could work for him. It says in the Talmud that Rabbah, Bra Gavra, says Rabbah created a man. Anyway, I think that we got enough golems in the world. We don't need a few more people in the world. But anyway, that's what you can do. And it looked like some sort of fire, the flashing electricity, we want to call it, around them, and from their thighs, from their waist and above. And from the waist and below, I saw that there was fire, and it was also flashing around like the color of a rainbow that's in a cloud on the day of on a rainy day. So it was this shining that was around them, the glory, something like the glory of God. And I saw, and I fell on my face, and I heard a voice saying, and then if you look in the Haftora, so it skips over and it jumps over to the, let's see, can we get to this here? To the third, did it work? And then we go to the 12th, or just this one sentence. No. 12, number 12. But Tisa'eni Ruach, and a spirit lifted me up, and I heard behind me a tremendously loud voice saying, Baruch Kavod Hashem Makomo, blessed is the glory of God from his place. End of the Haftorah. So essentially, Ezekiel is telling the Jews that God has not left them, and that they still have prophets, and that they still should not give up, and which of course they did. They should have, but nevertheless, in the end, they took his advice and they stayed calm. There were false prophets that came and said, "Go back to Israel," and they listened to his prophecy, and that was the story of Ezekiel. Ezekiel died in the middle of the exile. They were in Babylon for 70 years, and Ezekiel died somewhere before they got out. And the one that took them all back to Israel, that was Nehemiah, and then afterwards Ezra, Ezra Sofer, and he came. That was the last three prophets were in the beginning of the second temple. That was Haggai and Malachi and Zechariah. They said that the visions of Zechariah, they were in the world of Asiya, well, the lower spiritual world. So Isaiah, that he was first, he was like in the middle of the first temple. As Isaiah, by the way, was killed by his own grandson, Manasseh. Manasseh killed him. And the prophets had a pretty hard time. The prophets were definitely not listened to. But despite all that, God promises the Jews he's not going to leave them, and he's going to bring them back to Israel. There's going to be Mashiach, will build the third temple, etc., etc. As you will see the Shabbat, this holiday of Sukkot, there will be a class, God willing, on Sunday at 8:15. Have a good day. God bless you with Mashiach now.